What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really hired, Mr. Stark?
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddy Cat, and if you're wondering why I'm laughing, this would be the time. Well, first of all, let me say I'm at Roddy Cat at sorry, Roddy Cat on Twitter, News Need on Twitter, CB Caps on Instagram, Reddit Newsers Need. You know the whole spiel. We get there. And the reason why I'm laughing is because we have back with us the distinguished gentleman. I think he's a Time Lord. He may be from the Indiana Jones Chronicles. We don't know. PCN underscore, or he could be from some weird Future Tron thing. I don't know. PCN underscore dirt.
Yeah, I don't think I know either. This is when it pays to tune into the video feed.
Yes. This is absolutely true. This is I hadn't seen a pipe like that in Reed.
I used to have one like this all the time for wrestling when I was the professor doing wrestling shows.
Nice. I was going to think you got some pipe weed in there.
No, it's actually empty right now.
Okay, well.
Although if I could put bubbles in there, I will.
Yeah, I was about to say you could just complete the circle. You know, just hit all of the things in a way. But anyway, yes, PC underscore dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and ineedcomics.com, where you will find him. And last but not least for tonight, we have the man behind the soundtrack, the coolest man in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn!
Oh, that's right. That's right. We have one Agent underscore 70. And you can find him at Agent underscore 70 on Twitter and Instagram. And folks, once again, this is the Comic Book Chronicles. You can find this very show on the Comic Book Chronicles. No, what? Wait, no. I mean, we don't have that one just yet. On the CSPN network, where you can find this show and a whole bunch of other nice, fun shows, podcast-wise, at CSPN.us. You can also find us on Google Play and Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Must not forget the Spotify, because surprisingly enough, we got it on there. You can also find us at shop.cspn.us, except for you can find merch from our. That's right. Go there, and get you some merch from this show and other shows on the CSPN. It's good stuff. So with that, not with us tonight, by the way, I should add anyway, is the Osiris of this, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, the KLIQ Nation on Twitter, that's DKLIQ NATION, CB Cron on Twitter, thekliqnation.com, and of course he's writing his face off over on Comic Book Resources. Go check out his stuff over there. Hopefully, we will have him back with us soon. Yeah.
He's got lots of reading to catch up on.
He's got things, yeah, he's got a lot on his plate right now. So it's things. And speaking of reading, we will go through the comic books that we have read for this week. And we will start off with Defenders, the Best Defense. Not the Last Defense. Number 1. So this is that
right. So it's the last It's the last issue of this.
It's the last issue of this, yeah.
And I can tell you that it's not the most satisfying wrap to the story, but this has also been a kind of disjointed tale up until this point. I have to say that the story benefits from excellent pencils by Joe Bennett, who has been doing excellent work over on Immortal Hulk. So it's nice that this kind of quirky event has some really good art attached to it.
Yes, and the freaking Ghost Who Stabs didn't pay off.
That was disappointing. Yeah, so PCN_Dirt hasn't been on the show while we've been discussing this over the last 2 weeks, where I've nicknamed there's this literal ghost, like straight out of it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Like somebody cut 2 holes in a bed sheet and is running around with a knife laughing. And we're trying to figure out who the Ghost Who Stabs is, taken from the Batman Who Laughs. That's my riff on that. And yeah, pretty much zero payoff in this issue.
Yeah, and I don't understand what this is leading to, because there's not a Defenders series coming out. There's an Invaders book coming for Namor, and there's Doctor Strange, and you've got Hulk, and then you've got Silver Surfer is apparently going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy. So how did this stabby thing tie in? Like, it didn't have anything to do with this story.
Right.
So what's it leading to? Like, you got absolutely nothing out of that. And it was weird because with the art styles changing, I wasn't even sure. Like, I thought maybe I was watching the same guy get stabbed 4 times.
Right.
Because with the different art styles, you're never quite sure. Like, I see this crazy alien thing. Is this the same alien thing getting stabbed? Or is this, is there like a space station somewhere with a serial killer? Like, I don't understand what's happening.
Right. And it was all explained away. It was all explained away.
Yeah. Right. It's just, I'm like, man, which I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that, because I felt like I said last week, I don't know if you saw the show, Dirt, but we're talking about the Defenders series from 2011,
right?
That may have had that may have tied into this a little bit. It's still kind of loose if that was the case.
Yeah, I remember you talking about like there being a callback.
Right, and I think that still kind of sort of plays, but not in the way that I thought it was. But it's still not. But regardless of that, and they did in that book, which was only 12 issues, they kind of did like a thing sort of similar to this, where they kind of cut away from the action, but it wasn't like that. Like, they didn't do it in this. It was like, hey, this is a whole different thing,
Right. It would normally be like a subplot that somehow ends up tying into the story later on.
Right.
But like the thing with this is, like, I really liked the Hulk one when I read it. The Namor one, I was like, what is this Namor? This makes no sense. This is not Namor. This doesn't work at all. There was the Doctor Strange one, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And this is also kind of the vibe we've gotten from Doctor Strange the last few years, is that he ruins everything. The world is destroyed. We saw this like with Damnation and all this stuff, and then he's got to go fix the universe. And it's like, okay, it's like these big grand stories. And then Silver Surfer, I ended up just kind of skimming through a lot of that book after a while. I just got kind of tired. I didn't care about this like Yondu kid that he was talking to, whistling with the little arrows zipping through the air. And I was like, whatever. So when this book finally came out, I'm like, okay, how do all these stories tie together? And they kind of did, but more in the way of they just happened to be at the right spot where they mixed together, not necessarily that the stories were meant to tie together narratively.
Right.
It was just like, hey, a bunch of weird stuff is happening to everybody, and now they're all together. And it didn't matter. Like, they didn't need to do any of that stuff. They could have done one Doctor Strange special, and then he could have just pulled the guys in for this battle against the celestial train, and it
wasn't even our Doctor Strange. Now that I think about it, because they said in this book, it's like, hey, it's a multiverse, or another dimensions ones, whatever.
Yeah, because it was just his astral form, and then the body was destroyed, so then it was eventually going to just fade away, and he was gone.
It was like from an alternate future where he's trying to prevent this alternate future from happening. So,
so once I got done with the whole thing, I'm just like, why bother? Like, what? Like, I don't understand if this isn't leading up to anything, and this is the payoff we get on this story. Like, what was the point?
I mean, not unless it's something that's going to come up in Guardians or something. I have no idea. Because, I mean, the only other thing we got coming up that would even be remotely similar would be War of the Realms, and I don't think that would have unless they decide to do something. But I don't think that would have anything to do with that, because I would like to think they would have said something.
Honestly, the biggest payoff I got from this was Al Ewing letting you drop literally that what we might have thought was going to happen in the next issue of Hulk probably isn't going to happen, because all of a sudden, mild spoiler alert here, Mephisto kind of throws us a curveball in this issue.
Yeah.
And for people who are reading Immortal Hulk, you kind of had this feeling, especially where, we find our characters in the last issue of Immortal Hulk. You're like, well, I guess we're going to see this character, Mephisto, all of a sudden in this issue. Hey, here's a curveball. We're not going where you think we're going.
Right. And see, I was thinking that I was going back to Damnation, speaking of, because I was like, wait, Mephisto shows up, and then it was like, well, Doctor Strange had the most recent that I know of, because I'm not caught up on Immortal Hulk. So I was thinking, I was like, okay, this is a kind of a callback to that, but now that I remember Damnation, like, no, that's not, because he, once he got dealt with that, it wasn't even his place anymore. So I don't know. This was, I don't know. I feel like we will bring this up again in a couple of weeks, or if you, for good or for ill, but I don't know. Man, the thing didn't pay off, which I shouldn't have been surprised about that. The whole thing, and the only other thing that kind of came across to me was like, okay, well, the two books the two sets of books that kind of tied to each other still tied to each other, because you saw them two them two basically teaming up, but not everybody as a whole. So, because you saw over here, you saw Namor and Silver Surfer, which those two books kind of tied together, and Hulk and Strange.
And that was another thing that when the story hit ludicrous speed, and we saw Namor and Silver Surfer,
and he called it
Power Ranger team together. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I don't want to give it away if someone hasn't read it and they want to, but like, that was like, I'm sitting there looking at it like, what am I reading? Like, what is this?
Namor, in that instant, Namor, because I said the same thing when Namor said it, was like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, that just completely but it was fun, but it was like,
okay, so we all have something to talk to Al Ewing about now if we see him at a con.
So well, here's going to be my overall pick on this is if you haven't bought any of these, don't go out of your way to get it. When it hits Marvel Unlimited in 3 months, go ahead and read it there in an afternoon, and have some fun with it, but don't be prepared for anything substantial.
I'm curious when and or if they put it in trade, because they said you could read it in any order with the exception of this one here, and I'm kind of curious if they're going to put them in release order, which I don't know, probably makes as much sense as reading them in any other order. Because I feel like I said last week, I feel like there is somewhat of a set order that you could very well read, and then it still is not going to make that much sense regardless.
Well, to me, it really felt like Hulk and Doctor Strange were the most tied in, and Namor and Silver Surfer were just there. So, I mean, again, yeah, you can read them in any order, and you only have.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say you only have to read Namor and Silver Surfer just so you understand how they got to that point,
right?
In the story, but nothing that they do in the story really has anything to do with the story.
Right. Yeah. What I was gonna say was, like, Silver Surfer was the one that basically gave you half of the info dump, because you're like, okay, hey, here's the actual thing that is, going to be the thing they're going to be fighting in this issue here. Like, this is what's going to be going on in this issue, and that's pretty much the closest you were going to get to that. So it is what it is. I think we're unless anybody else got anything to say, we're done here with this one.
I think we're done.
Yeah. So that being the case, anybody want to put something? Well, let's just, you know what? You're the only one that read that one.
What's that?
I was going to say let's go to Spider-Geddon, but you seem to be the only one who's read it.
Well, I'll just say in very broad strokes, and it seems like I'm not the only one that read it, because Tim Dog 98 apparently has.
Well, I meant of the
exactly of the people present, of the hosts present. Yes, I'm the one that read it. So this is actually a pretty nice wrap up to the sequel event to Spider-Verse. So this is Spider-Geddon, and it's definitely a spotlight on a lot of these secondary Spider characters led by Miles Morales, because Peter Parker has been shunted off dealing with one inheritor on his own in the wrap up to the Spectacular Spider-Man series. So this mini series, this event basically spotlighted a lot of the Spider characters that are that have emerged in the recent history. I'm specifically referring to Spider-Gwen now, who actually, I think, officially is changing her code name as of this issue to something we've all come to learn to be Ghost Spider. And
Gwen to me, damn it.
Right. And there's a riff on something from Acts of Vengeance all the way back in the 90s that comes up in this issue, but instead of Peter Parker taking on the Enigma Force and becoming Captain Universe. It's all spoiled on the cover if you look carefully.
But I think we kind of talked about, if it's who I'm thinking about, we kind of talked about that already when that came up a couple weeks ago.
All right. So bottom line is it's a pretty fun and satisfying ending to this event. I was talking to Roddy Cat before PCN_Dirt came online about how it seems like the spotlight shining brightly on Miles, and to a lesser extent Gwen and some of the other Spider characters, coinciding with the release of the Into the Spider-Verse movie. I don't think this was a coincidence. I think this was intentional, and it's a way of spotlighting these characters without having Peter Parker kind of stomp all over it, because he had, he kind of played a pretty big role in the first event.
Yeah, but he was kind of on the side of this one, because he was basically dealing with one of them.
Right, it was a one-on-one battle. Right, that was more of a one-on-one for him. So
which is that I found out was kind of, even though I haven't read it yet. But I was also going to say that if you're watching the video, you've seen a nice little spoiler for next week's show having to do with someone we were just talking about but didn't actually mention.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, can't imagine. But that is for next week, regardless.
All right.
So I guess we are good on the events. Well, I'm about to say we're good on the event type stuff with now, because you have two more. So I don't know if you want to shift gears to the DC verse for a sec, because I know you both read Batman's.
Yeah, I know Dirt definitely has some good points to bring up in this.
Okay, and so we'll bring up Batman 61 then.
We can bring up, like, what the hell?
Correct.
That's what we can bring up. So last time on Batman, we were in the big Bane conspiracy that Bane is trying to destroy Batman. He knows everything about him, and he's gone to great lengths to build this giant conspiracy and to drive Batman insane. And we get on the final page of the last issue, Thomas Wayne, the Batman from the Flashpoint universe, he shows up and he actually attacks Bruce, and you're like, what?
Right.
And then we get the next issue, this time on Batman, absolutely no follow-up.
No continuity whatsoever.
So you're saying King's playing the long con, possibly?
Okay, so here's the thing. He introduced this character a while back who basically had the same situation that happened to Bruce when he was young, except it has turned him into like this dark evil, like wants vengeance, whatever, as opposed to fight crime, like what happened to Bruce to become Batman.
Right, so it's kind of a cutter, but he cuts other people.
Yeah, he's like the yin yang of it's like the what could have happened to Bruce, right? So apparently that book started the year, so King wanted to bookend the year going back to this character and do a follow-up story, which I mean, great. You're designing something wonderful, except that story has absolutely nothing to do with what's been going on for the last 4 or 5 issues in Batman, and instead you get this really confusing story because it goes back through this kid's origin again of what happened to him. And of course, since everything is very similar to what happened to Bruce, you're getting flashbacks to what happened to him when his parents were murdered, and it's like going back and forth, and you're like, wait, which one am I reading? Like, what time frame am I, like, it doesn't make any sense. And then you start to realize, oh, okay, so this is that other guy,
right?
And it's woven together, and you're like, okay, well, this is like really confusing. Where is this story going? And it goes absolutely nowhere. And so not only did this bookend for the year that he planned have nothing to do with the ongoing story that we've been following, but it just goes nowhere. It just ends, and then it's over. And like I remember, like I was sitting there reading it, going, like, did I miss something? Like, was there something in the annual like that I forgot? Like, resolved something? Or
I'm glad that you mentioned this. I felt like this was an annual story. I felt like I had stumbled into, wait a second, is this supposed to be an annual? Like, that just got shifted into the regular schedule because they're trying to ship every 2 weeks.
Like, I don't know, did like Tom King like fall off the deck in his backyard and he couldn't write a script, and this is something that was sitting in his drawer, and so they just threw it together at the last moment so they could publish something? I don't know.
It was very weird. Very weird.
But I was less than impressed with the story, and I was less than happy that this was the follow-up to such the great cliffhanger we got last month.
Agreed.
So I have a question then, because so after the Nightwing stuff happened, I was reading Batman around that up to the KGB thing, up to the end of that KGB thing. Does that last part of that have anything to do with this? Because if you remember, but there was like
there was mention. I think it may have been in the last issue that that KG Beast was hired by Bane.
Right.
So I mean, it does tie in that way. Like, that was part of the whole breaking him down process.
Gotcha. And then I think I did read a couple of issues after that, but I think that one thing that little like he got started there didn't seem to go any further, because it was like a story was being told that was like a children's story, and then it was the Batman KGB stuff was happening throughout, and then at the end of the book you saw what you think to be Bruce and his dad at the end.
Yeah, I mean
that
seemed to exist, one, so they could reboot Nightwing because they want to make him more like the character in the Titans TV show on the DC Universe thing.
Sure.
And then they figured they could just kind of work it into the whole Bane playing mind games with him and trying to break him down. So,
gotcha.
But then we got this issue, and who knows now? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out that this is going on at the same time on Earth 27, and so this Batman's going to show up back in the universe. I don't know.
Right, because not reading too much further and going by what you said, I was thinking if that kid from that was still this, but it doesn't sound like that may or may not be the case.
I don't know. I'm just not like Tom King, Sheriff of Babylon, fantastic. Vision, fantastic. Every so often you get like these little pockets of just like brilliance. It's kind of like Jeff Johns a lot of ways. Like, Jeff Johns will write some stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, this is great and this is brilliant, and he can like retcon everything, but it makes perfect sense and you go along with it because he figured out some way to make something work that you never thought of before, and you're like, wow, that's great. And then Jeff Johns writes Teen Titans and you're like, what, is this the same guy? Like, what happened? That's how I feel a lot of times with these Tom King, with his run here on Batman. It's just like, what? Like, is this really the same guy? Like, I guess everybody has their ups and downs, but it's just weird.
Yeah, this is definitely part of the long game. It's just a weird spot to drop this in. And I think that's what's jarring to, you can tell from what PCN_Dirt is saying. It's a pretty rough, it makes it into a very rough patch. While we're trying to navigate this, long form Bane, out to break the Bat story again.
And, and also part of it is, we for this show, we do get review copies of stuff. We pretty much can read just about anything that gets published,
Right.
But Batman is still one of those books that I collect. Like I still go out and buy Batman and have Batman, and it's it's one of those things that I've bought it since the 5th grade, but I mean there are times when I'm just reading it like, am I done with this? Like, it's like, this is not good.
It's like my ongoing fascination with trying to keep my Uncanny X-Men run going, right? I know. Oh, tell me about it.
Well, here's hoping that this, unlike The Last Defense, pays off with that 100th, because I know he did say this is supposed to be an 100-issue arc, so I was hoping that pays off for you guys.
Hope so.
although I feel like there's going to be a similar similar conversation and when it comes to that point next year. Yeah.
Well, when we hit 100, we'll come back to this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's see that. That being the case, let us go on to 1, 2. Hey, Agent 70. We both read Killmonger.
Sure.
So we got a little more action in this one than at first. Did you have you checked this out?
I did. Oh,
Dirt. No, not some. Okay, so okay.
Well, it's worth reading simply because it does try to tie the Killmonger that we see in the Black Panther movie into the Marvel Universe proper, and it's an interesting take on the character. Obviously, with the sliding timelines. I like though that this squad of killers that he's been dropped into, courtesy of the Kingpin,
yes,
actually has someone with a decent head on his shoulders leading it. I like that. I really did, because
I hope there was a pun intended there, because that's pretty good.
Well, he's not the one that gets
I know, but still.
But yeah, that is a mild spoiler right there. But ultimately, it's refreshing, because the point of this, and I think Brian Hill does a great job of this, is that this is set in the character's past. So Killmonger is not the character that we know at this point. This is, him still earning his stripes. That's kind of a bad cat / tiger, thing there. But at the end of the day, he's still learning the ropes and in the MCU, and he finds himself as part of this kind of wetworks type team that the Kingpin has, and he's the most junior part of the team, but he proves to be pretty effective. But ultimately, this wetworks team kind of gets the kiss of death from the Kingpin, and that's where we find ourselves at the end of the job.
Yeah, after doing a job well done, but we don't know specifically. Like it was kind of called out as like, well, it could be this or it could be that, but we don't know. Regardless, we got burned, and it is kind of notable, even though I don't know. I know for a fact that Brian Hill has watched Heat, and I felt like there was a scene or two here that made that very much apparent.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying because I love Heat. Heat's an awesome movie, by the way. So if you haven't seen it, but like I said, there was a part of that I almost expecting something that's like somebody call out the Wayne Grove, but that's not. It doesn't go that far. But nevertheless, like I said, there was a specific couple of pages that was like, oh well, yeah, this is kind of. I feel like this took some.
It's an homage.
Yeah. So, that being the case, yeah, we found out that the crew runs up against. So they do have it. Luckily, and I think we've said this the last issue. That they are definitely tying it to the not only the MCU, but the 616 in a certain way. Even though it's a little, it's a slight loop to it.
I was gonna say it's a lot of retconning, but yeah.
yeah. Because there's characters like, say, the Kingpin, which, as far as I know, he's never had any contact with, in this, like we already said. But there's another character that we found out that they run up against at the end of this. That I am
Right.
curious.
We won't spoil it. It's a nice
yeah,
reveal,
definitely not.
even though it's fairly obvious where it's leading and where we're gonna end this particular issue once we find out the kiss of death and who they've been sent after. So
Right.
So it was a pretty entertaining read. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought so. It had like I said the whole the heat inspiration there was nicely done, and it was a good read. So going on from that,
Yeah, there's not much else that all was read.
Yeah, kind of.
If you guys want, I can spin up the spin up the Vulcan and we can go rapid fire.
Dirt, you got something you wanna talk to, or you're good?
I mean, I can do it all rapid fire. It's fine.
Sounds good.
Spin it. All right. Rapid fire, folks. Who wants to be the... You know what? I'll go first. Just get that out of the way right now. West Coast Avengers, number 6. So, hey, the team got caught by Madam Mask and crew, and they find themselves in a situation. Land sharks reappear. It's still kind of an interesting book so far. But there is a part of it that if you haven't kept up with Kate Bishop, specifically the last run of Hawkeye, you'd be like, what's going on here? But it kind of says, it kind of blankly, well, not blankly, but it kind of says, hey, this is that, that's that. And when you read first, but you're still like, well, wait, what, huh? So I don't know if this might shed a little bit light on it, but I don't think it's necessary. But again, if you are a fan of Kate Bishop, you probably would have already done it regardless, which I haven't finished that run. Now that I think about it, so it is what it is. That being said, like I said, they get to a place and someone from their past, or specifically a couple of folks' past, specifically Kate's, come back at the end of the book for one reason or another. The cover makes you believe, because it's an homage to a classic West Coast Avengers cover, that it might have been somebody else, but the silhouette is different, so that's out of the picture. So regardless, it's still kind of fun. Shuri, number 3. This is when Shuri possesses Groot. So at the end of last issue, her astral form ends up in space because of some similar things. Some things happen, and she's fighting in Groot form and talking to Groot in his mind. He's actually not saying, and he's actually talking plain English in his mind to her. But as it comes out, he's saying I am Shuri as opposed to I am Groot. Rocket's like, hey, that happened? Huh, okay. And then they just push on like no big deal. So they're out in space fighting this big space cricket. And they deal with that. Cricket? Yeah, basically. Okay. Well, maybe
I'll let you keep rapid firing, but that caught my attention.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Space cricket, but that space cricket is going to come back later. And apparently the space cricket has a thing for Aretha Franklin. So, Exiles, number 11. I don't know if have you caught up on this, Agent 70?
No, I'm gonna have to come back because there's some news about this book.
Yes. Oh, wait, really?
Mm-hmm.
Then, well, that being said, I will be looking for something in a minute. And I guess if it's what I'm thinking it is, it kind of makes sense given how this book kind of goes. So basically, an thought lost Exiles member comes back with another group of exiles, or with another team of exiles, and they're fighting the other crew, and a big slobber knocker fight happens. But then at the end, some recompense is going to end up happening. I thought I enjoyed the whole fight of this book, and it seemed like it is definitely going somewhere. Hopefully it's not where I'm thinking it is, but Darth Vader 25. Sorry, I'm doing a little pasting while I'm talking. If you ever wanted to know what the Sith Spirit Walk looks like, this is the book you want to read. By the way, also last issue of this book. So they had to they kind of put it into place. So it's as I like to call it, it's basically a greatest hits of Darth Vader or a history of, because it kind of on the Spirit Walk he kind of goes through the prequels, you know, certain beats of the prequels, a little bit of Rebels, a little bit of you know, a little bit of the original trilogy. It even sprinkles a dash of not Force Awakens, but a little dash of Last Jedi in there, and you know, in there for good measure, but it puts the book in a place and ends. So I don't know if they're going to do a plan on rebooting it or anything, but yeah, it kind of went out as it came in. Like I said, it was a pretty decent book for the timeline that they set in. It felt like though it could have had a little bit more legs to it, because I mean, but I don't know, they decided to do what they decided to do with it. Champions Annual #1. Wait, did you not read this? Agent 70?
I picked up a physical copy. I haven't read it yet.
Gotcha. Well, I won't say too much of it because I mean we basically know what it is already, and that it is a snow guard centric book. Mm-hmm. She basically goes home and gets into some stuff, and you know, it's all in service of that. As we know from last week, you know, they're going to reboot the book next year, excuse me. So this was kind of a one-off. It was a pretty good story though, I thought, you know, for what it was. But you can tell it was just like, hey, just a little bit more about, you know, with her, because we didn't get a whole lot with her, and wham bam. And I believe, let's see, do I have anything else? That is actually it.
Okay.
So
all right. Dirt, is it all right if I go? Because I've got a few to cover. Okay.
Go ahead. That's fine.
Got it. So just see if I can do this quickly. Amazing Spider-Man #12. We have the reappearance of a longtime Spider villain. We actually are in a trip down memory lane thanks to Arcade helping out a certain villain, old school Spidey villain, going through the history of J. Jonah Jameson's long and colorful history of deriding, and now up until recently he started to assist Spider-Man in his endeavors, but it's a pretty entertaining stretch of you know, of history that's gone that they go over in the book. You know, still kind of trying to figure out where we're going from here, but it's a fun little book to kind of reminisce with. We already did Batman #61. Let's not go over it again. Captain America #6. I think Coates is getting his bearings on this. This issue was a great way to kind of get us up to speed on why we should care about a character who was once dead, is now back. We're talking about Brubaker's run on the book, and you know, his wife, who basically brought him back using various connections and seeking out help from various characters who we haven't seen before in the pages of Captain America. Now we understand why they're here, and we end on a cliffhanger that's going to lead into a murder mystery in the next, you know, several issues of Captain America. So I definitely see Coates has definitely got his bearings under him, and is definitely, you know, weaving a good tale moving forward from maybe not the strongest start, but I like where this is going. Extermination #5. So we are in another mini event that has reached its end, and we have actually done a bit of cleaning up in this. So mild spoiler alerts. The one thing we've all wanted to do with the young X-Men ever since they actually got here, thanks to the Beast messing with time, actually happens. And we have...
Wait. they all got murdered, horrible, painful deaths.
They can't do that because they mess up the space-time continuum. So that being said,
So the next best thing.
Exactly, it's the next best thing. But they come up with the writers on this. I'm not. I got to pull up my my review copy. But since this is rapid fire, I'm just going to say that the creators on this came up with a good way of preserving what had been established during the time that the young version of the X-Men were here in the quote unquote present day, and help the current iteration of the team move forward. And the cover is a dead giveaway as to who is returning. It's in all the comic book website pages. So I'm going to leave it that. I'm not going to spoil it here, but it's right there on the cover. Infinity War is number 6. Speaking of an event ending, kind of, I don't want to say on a whimper, because I definitely see where this is headed. It's just another step towards relaunching Guardians of the Galaxy, in its latest form. We kind of have a resolution to what the current status quo of the Infinity Stones / gems are now in the Marvel Universe proper, the 616. So that, if that was the ultimate goal of this series, then that was done. I just felt like it was disjointed, having not read any of the tie-in issues, any of the miniseries. I stuck strictly to the main miniseries of Infinity Wars, and I felt like it was lacking. But I liked the resolution. Getting to this particular resolution was pretty rough. Spider again, number 5. We talked about the life and times of Captain Marvel, number 5. This is the final issue of this retcon of Carol Danvers's origin, and I liked it. Yes, it definitely has some very classic tropes weaved into it that were heretofore unknown to all of us. You have to admit, though, that Carol Danvers' history is really, really weird. And to have it kind of distilled into something that you can read in one sitting and get a good grasp on, I think is worth it. Yeah, it doesn't mean that none of that stuff, if for fans of Uncanny X-Men, when Wolverine was seeing a ghost apparition of Carol Danvers in his head in the late 80s, early 90s, this is we're talking about when the X-Men were in Australia, and he was and Wolverine was hallucinating and seeing Carol Danvers. All that stuff still happens probably, but like I said, this miniseries really does a good job of distilling it down to something that you can easily remember and tell people, all right, this is the character's origin. And finally, my last. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I would have said convoluted for her history a little bit, but I think you said it a lot nicer.
Yeah, yeah. Convoluted is. Listen, they didn't know what to do with this character. Now that they want to push her to the forefront, I think this was necessary to really get her origin down to something that you could really understand and pass along to people and say, look, this is the definitive take on the origin. The last book I read this week is probably my favorite and definitely a candidate for Click of the Week, if not the candidate. It's Thor number 8, and we're on our way to the War of the Realms, and we have a big role played by some of the characters that have been weaved into Asgardian lore. I'm specifically referring to these angels in Heaven or Heaven, where Angela was, and it's just a lot of fun. There's a lot of there's actually a quality interaction between Angela and Thor, because they've been locked up by these angels, because the angels have taken the side of Malekith in the War of the Realms, and that's not good. But there is a rescue plan in place, and it is so, you don't see the machinations of it, but when Thor tells Angela, "This is my rescue plan," it involves my goat, my dog, and Valkyrie's horse, and it's so well done. It's just a few pages, but it's ridiculously well done. Whatchamacallit? The art, as much as people don't like, hold on. It's on the credits on this. Mike Del Mundo's art, some people don't necessarily think he can tell he does the best sequential stuff, but I think he's actually working. He's actively improving his sequential storytelling in this. So, in this series, and it's getting better and better. So, I wholeheartedly endorse this run on Thor. This issue was a lot of fun.
All right. Well, then I guess it's time for me to jump in here. I only had 2 other books. I didn't have a whole lot of books this week. It's kind of a small week for me, which is nice for a change, especially right before Christmas. But Damage number 12 came out this week. This is one of those new age of DC heroes that spun out of Metal. And the last issue teased Superman on the cover, said that there was going to be the big battle, Damage versus Superman, and Superman showed up on the very last page. So this issue, we finally get the big fight of Superman versus the Hulk, and Superman versus Damage. And it's basically what you expect when you have 2 giant guys clobbering each other. But a seldom used DC hero who's now part of the giant Justice League that has expanded out again to 150 members makes an appearance, and he is able to, shall we say, get the upper hand. I don't want to spoil it, because it is kind of a neat way that they figured out how to do this. But Superman's able to get the upper hand. They're able to contain Damage. And this hero, when he does what he does, is able to look through Damage's memories. And so they realize that he was part of an experiment, that he never wanted any of this. And every time he goes berserker mode and is out of control, it's not what he wants. And he's, trying to stop himself from going crazy all the time. So the Justice League now has him confined in the Hall of Justice, and they're going to try to fix him or work with him to, how to control all of this. So it's kind of an interesting twist that the story has taken. The problem is you have this giant plot hole. Now that they know that there's this secret government group that's trying to make these metahuman monsters for battle, you'd think that Justice League might want to do something about that, and they seem to just kind of ignore the whole thing. And now we have Damage. We're going to make him in the Justice League. So, who knows? Maybe they'll follow up with it later, but at the end of this issue, you just kind of get the feeling they're like, oh, yeah, the government's doing, whatever, move on. So we'll see.
Is the series continuing?
Oh, yeah. Series is still going. This was issue 12, so this is the end of the first year. But, yeah, it definitely continues on.
Okay.
I thought I saw an article that said that, I don't know if it's him, but I'm assuming it's him because this just came out, that he might be stronger than Superman. Or at least that's how they're playing it.
Well, it's one of those things where Superman hits him, and Damage is like, wow, he hits a lot harder than I expected. And then Damage hits Superman, and Superman's like, wow, he hits a lot harder than I expected.
Okay.
So, but I don't know that, it's one of those things. It's like if you remember whenever they would do like Punisher, Daredevil fights back in the 80s, where it's like, if it's Daredevil's book, Daredevil would win. If it's Punisher's book, Punisher would win. But like one was never really getting the upper hand on the other, consistently. So That's what that was. And then we had Gideon Falls number 9, and this is going to be my click of the week. This series, continues to just amaze me. I love the storytelling in this, and this issue is a lot more about building the relationships between the characters as they're working through this mystery of trying to figure out what's going on. And you have these 2 alternate universes or alternate timelines or whatever's going on with these 2 different places, except one character in one place hears the name of a character in the other place. And it's this guy, Norton. And Norton is the crazy guy who's in the city, who's been trying to find how to rebuild the Black Barn. And so when the guy in the small town version of Gideon Falls hears the name Norton, he goes and talks to one of the old guys in town and says, hey, have you
Bang Zoom. No,
No, he was. Does this name mean anything to you? And you find out that the name does mean something in the alternate timeline, alternate universe, whatever, and it's not a sympathetic character who needs help like the way he is in the other timeline. So there's something, you get another one of these like wrench in the gears of like there's something, okay, now we're taking another turn. Something again is going weird in a different way that you didn't expect. So I love this storyline. I love everything it's doing, and I can't wait until it gets to a point where, you know, year 2, year 3, where I can go back and read through, because it's already at the point where you can go back to the first couple issues and see things that you missed reading through now that you know more about it. I just can't wait, you know, even farther as the story progresses to then come back and see the breadcrumbs that they've been stringing all along.
And someone called Norton an imbecile.
Yes.
All right, so we are at the point where we're going to pick our clicks of the week. So here we go.
And well, apparently Dirt has already given his as he flashes the cover on the video version. Yeah, get in for all number 9 for him.
Nice.
And we also have Tim's, which is Spider-Geddon number 5.
That's a good pick.
Yeah. And for myself, I think I am going to go with Shuri number 3. That was pretty fun. It was a weirdly hard pick for me this week.
All righty. And for me, I mentioned it right at the end of my review of it. It's this week's issue of Thor number 8. So that was very cool. Dirt, you going to step out on us now?
Yeah, actually, I've been getting some looks here because it's about 9:26.
I was going to ask you a question, but I'll ask you offline then.
You got it.
Is it a secret?
No. It was about those New Age of Heroes books, because I know you've been reading most, if not all of them.
I've been reading Sideways, Silencer,
Right.
Damage.
I think that's it. Oh wait, Unexpected, I think, or whatever.
No, I gave up on Unexpected.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. What about them?
I was going to ask you which ones are kind of. Obviously, you've been sticking on which ones have been the.
Worth your while.
I mean, Terrifics is really good, and it's a lot of fun. And it's one of those. It's a team that doesn't want to be a team. They're kind of forced together, and it's one of those that's grabbing from a lot of corners of the DC universe. So you've got Metamorpho, you've got Plastic Man, you've got Mr. Terrific. You actually have Phantom Girl from the Legion of Superheroes, who's out of time and out of phase. Which I mean, it doesn't make any sense, which is part of the fun of it. And I think Jeff Lemire is actually doing that one too, so that may be why. So that one's a lot of fun. Silencer has been like 1,000 times better than I expected. The whole thing is that she was an assassin for Talia al Ghul in the League of Assassins, and she tried to retire and leave, and she gets caught right in the middle of a civil war. And it's been going on for like 9, 10, 11 issues now. And so it's been a lot more fun and a lot more story driven than I thought it was going to be a lot more single issue stories. And it's been a good chunk arc going through the whole thing. So that's been a lot of fun. Sideways is okay. That one's a little like, I'm always kind of teetering on that one, whether or not I'm going to keep reading it. It's a teenager with powers, and he can shift between realities, which is kind of a cool idea, but they never quite use it in new and interesting ways that I want to see. It seems much more of an afterthought. So it's like I keep waiting for that breakthrough moment where it's like, aha, that's how we can use this and make it awesome. And it just kind of meanders along. Curse of Brimstone I've been reading. That one I like a lot too, because that one, it starts out as this guy who's cursed, and he turns into like this fire monster, and he's causing these problems. But then they realize there's a much larger conspiracy. There's something evil going through the world, handing out these demonic curses on people, kind of like a monkey's paw wish. You know, it's like you want something interesting to happen. So, okay, here's something interesting. You now carry a plague, and everyone in your city is dead. You know. It's like, okay, well, you got something interesting, but not what you wanted. And so now they're kind of trying to turn these cursed monster people into like their own kind of dark heroes struggling through it. So that's been a lot of fun. And then, Damage is, like I said, it's Hulk. I mean, it's if you want more Hulk stories, I mean, that's really what it is more Hulk stories. So if you want Hulk, instead of it being an accident in the military testing, and instead the military testing was trying to make a monster, that's where you get Damage from. But otherwise, it's almost exactly the same as Hulk. So that's a plus or minus depending on where you're coming from. But I like it because it's just, it works so well.
All right.
Okay, cool.
All right. So 2 things. 1, check your messages. Let's check the message I just sent you, Doug. And 2, Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah, that is coming up, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, so next week. So since you're leaving now, I figured we'd wish you a happy holiday because it's coming up before our next show.
And also I will not be on. I don't know if you guys are planning on doing a show next week, but as it turns out, next Thursday is actually my parents' 50th wedding anniversary.
Wow! Congratulations to them.
So we have some activities planned. So I'll be a little busy that day.
No, just a little.
Understood.
All right, guys. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on again.
Dude. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys. I'll see you.
Take it easy. Happy holidays.
All righty. So let's get this first ad read in for the night. Our first ad read is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron has fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today.
And we go into the news, starting with the cinematics right now. Yes. And hey, wait a minute. Something's not right here.
Live podcasting, folks. No, I'm kidding.
I know, right? Well, crud monkey. I totally didn't finish getting all the news stories together. But regardless, we're gonna start off with the first one as I stall for time here. As you see me do this live, if you're watching the video, this is awesome podcasting, folks. In fact, I was gonna ask Agent 70 a question, but totally forgot what it is. So we would just go ahead and say that Doctor Strange sequels moves forward with returning director Scott Derrickson, which is a surprise, no surprise.
Well, the only surprising thing is that we actually have a returning director on some of these solo films.
I don't know, I guess. I mean, that Doctor Strange did well enough, so I was like, I would be surprised if they wouldn't have gotten him.
Mm-hmm.
So it is. So there you go. And sounds like there may be more than one sequel. I'm not sure. I thought I saw that in one of these articles on that, but regardless, we got one coming.
All right. Up next, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse's producers are excited about a Spider-Ham spinoff. So mild spoilers.
Dirt would have been happy about this had he seen it.
Yeah, mild spoilers. Spider-Ham makes a substantive appearance in the movie. And lots of people got a kick out of the voice acting of one, I believe it's John Mulaney. So
correct.
So with that said, it's cool that there's potential for a spinoff.
And there was another article which I'm not sure if I put in or not. It may be in the clickbait section. I'm not sure, but there was some outtakes from his vocal section that there's a video of, if you are so inclined.
Okay.
Next up, Brigitte Nielsen wants to be a Marvel villain, which, judging by the picture, she kind of always already looked like one.
Oh, so for anyone that watched Creed 2,
I am not one of them.
oh, well, I probably just spoiled a small bit of it.
Yeah, do it because I don't plan. I hadn't seen the first one, so I don't plan on watching it.
Right. So Brigitte Nielsen's character reappears in the movie.
Right.
So
which that part I knew. So I was like, I don't know. So yeah, she basically says, and I can't seem to pull up here what is going on.
Well, she basically wants in on the Marvel gravy train.
Right. Which is what I was gonna say. So I was like, yeah, and it's very apparent by the comments on if assuming they took the comments as she said them, which I'm not surprised because she even says like, I'll take everything. I feel like there's a lot of excitement with a villain. You can go many places. You're a good person. You better be good. It's good to be bad. So,
yeah.
And she also postulates that Red Sonja is a part of the Marvel U, which technically kind of is, but it isn't.
And it would depend on where the movie rights are. So yeah.
Well, I mean, so Red Sonja. It says here in the article, Red Sonja debuted in Marvel's Conan the Barbarian #23. So technically, it is kind of true, but at the same time, it's the movie had nothing to do with Marvel. Her movie, specifically Red Sonja,
right,
had to do that. And apparently, I did not know, but there was supposed to be a 1990 She-Hulk film, which was never greenlit, which is probably for the best.
Yeah, probably, especially back then. So this is some interesting news that popped up. Apparently, Keanu Reeves came out and said he wouldn't want to play. He wouldn't want to play Batman, but would rather play Wolverine. I think that's what the gist of the statement was, and I can dig that.
Nope, I can't. Mm-mm.
No, I mean I can dig that he would want to play Wolverine over Batman.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
because I don't know if I could imagine Batman saying, "I am the Knight. Whoa, I am Batman."
But can you picture him saying, "I'm the best at what I can do. What I do ain't pretty, bub." I don't know.
Oh, I mean, listen, we're talking about he's fan casting himself. So we can let him indulge that particular fantasy,
I suppose. And obviously he's got a movie coming out, right? So that's why we're going first, and not John Wick.
It's probably because he's growing out the sideburn beard in John Wick that makes him think, hey, I could be Wolverine.
Yeah, which now that I think about, oh shoot, I didn't put that in the story. But there was an article today-ish, I believe, that said that they're going to brace yourselves, folks. John Wick Chapter 3, aka whatever they called it, because I still plan on calling it Chapter 3. They're gonna have 2 dogs.
Oh, I did see that.
2 dogs. So anyway,
twice the revenge killing. Okay,
I know, right? As if we needed that.
So you got the next one.
Netflix canceled Marvel shows. Disney may revive them after all. So this is whatever. In the head. Basically, longer short of it, like the executive Disney exec was like, yeah, we could put them on the thing, but they haven't discussed it. They could put those Netflix shows on there, but which I mean, obviously they had a right to do, but since it was still Netflix's show, I mean, it's basically Netflix's thing. It's not going away from Netflix.
Listen, with money, they can make anything happen.
Right. So I don't know. He said it's a basic set as a possibility. So I'm sure somebody out there is getting their hopes up, which I'm like, you know what? I still sit with what I said about it. I was like, yeah, sure, they put the old shows on there. I don't know if they make any new ones. And it wouldn't be like the Netflix ones if they did. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
next up, speaking of Netflix, it's summoning Sabrina for 3rd and 4th seasons, but these seasons will be shorter than the current 10 episode seasons. They're instead going to be 8 episode seasons.
I have not seen any of this, but I've heard decent things, and I've heard that Christmas. I don't know. I saw an article saying that Christmas special was possibly the reason why they're getting 2 more seasons outside of the one that was already slated.
Okay.
I don't know how true that is, but hey, it is what it is. DC Universe to stream new DC animated movies on release day, so that's kind of cool. So the DC Universe streaming services already has a dozen things. So basically, Reign of the Superman, when it comes out next year, they're going to stream it on the service the day it releases. So I assume, because I think there's supposed to be a theatrical run also.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you could either, which I don't know what that's going to do for their theatrical sales, if they even care for that. And I don't know. I assume day of release means, hey, this is going to be the only day, and then it gets off of there until they bring it back on months later. But regardless, January 13th, 2019 is when Reign of the Superman comes out. So on that day, you'll be able to check it out on DC Universe if you have it, or wherever else. So next.
So up next is the Mandalorian soundtrack gets Black Panther's composer Ludwig Göransson.
Nice.
Alrighty.
So yeah, they're putting some money behind that show.
Mhm.
Hopefully it's going to be good. Watch the first trailer for the Hellboy reboot.
Oh, I kind of wish PCN_Dirt was
right.
discuss this.
I thought about that, but he was like, I'm sure he'd say, well, he cares more about Magnola's art than the character sound. But who knows? I would be curious to hear what he says about this.
Mhm.
I have heard mixed things about this. I haven't seen the trailer.
I didn't think it was bad or good. I thought it was, it was okay. I can definitely say that my choice in character design, specifically the face of the Hellboy character, I definitely favor the old one. I'm not a fan of this new, tweaked character facial design. So
right, yeah. I have seen an article that said they should have kept Ron Perlman. That's how far that goes. But
yeah, I mean, I think some of it is also the voice acting too. You just get used to Perlman's gravelly voice. That's the voice that you associate with the character.
Right, but he's a little. I'm not saying he is a little up in age, but he's not cared about coming back to this character. Well, he specifically wasn't really caring about coming back to this, but he said he would do it for the fans, and then they decided to go another route. But so I don't know if even if you got that, whether you would actually want it or not, or whether. So regardless, hey, it is what it is. It's still coming. Report G.I. Joe first Snake Eyes details surface online. So apparently they were really trying to make this G.I. Joe thing on cinematically a thing. And we hadn't heard anything about him in a while, so we figured they might have dropped it. But it didn't, because according to that hashtag show, the film, which will be highlighting one Snake Eyes as a young adult traveling to the Asian continent after becoming a street brawler in Peru. So a street fighter now? Is that where we're going with this? So then he will reportedly train with Tom AKA's. Huh?
No. I was just listening in because I don't know how familiar you are with Snake Eyes' origin in the comics.
I vaguely remember from the old run. So
okay, I mean, a lot of this stuff is, just it's a substitute for how Tommy and Snake Eyes get together, because if you recall, they were comrades. They were both American soldiers in Vietnam in the comics, and God forbid they try to do that and make them both soldiers in like Afghanistan or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
Don't know. But regardless, the film is said to be eyeing Snake Eyes. There's a little bit of feedback going on. Not sure what's going on there. But we're gonna try to power through it. Hang on a second.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm hearing an echo. So I'm trying to figure out if that's my end. But sorry, folks. Anyway, to keep going, the film is said to be eyeing Snake as his three masters from the original comics and cartoons: Hard, Soft, and Blind Master.
Mm-hmm.
Or will we see Jinx?
Jinx was never part of the original origin.
I know.
Yeah. But that's pretty cool that they're gonna have the three masters in there. That I liked, like I went back and found those issues. They were actually on the valuable side for a little while.
Yeah.
The Snake Eyes' origin.
Right. Meanwhile, in the current comics, Snake Eyes has died again, and now there's a woman in place.
Okay. Okay.
Last I saw, anyway.
Right.
So go figure.
All right.
Anyway, next.
Next up, this is mildly spoilery. I haven't watched the movie yet. Aquaman. Why James Wan wanted Julie Andrews for that pivotal role. Okay.
Well, it is and it isn't, because we've talked about the role she's playing, but yeah, being that you haven't actually seen the movie, it probably takes away a little bit something from you. But yeah, the Juan says that this is why he chose Andrews for that role. So we'll go into it. Interesting reason.
All right, and last up in this section.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I did put it in there, didn't I? So this is a little slight outside of comic news.
Is your audio okay? I can hear your audio kind of warping.
I don't know what is going on. I haven't done anything to it.
Strange. You want me to take the last one?
Maybe go for it.
All right. So Bad Boys for Life adds 3 cast members to the cast, including star from the TV show Riverdale. So there are now 3 additional stars attached to the the next Bad Boys movie: Vanessa Hudgens, Alexander Ludwig, and Charles Melton. Melton is the one from Riverdale. He played the meathead football player Reggie. Okay.
Pew pew pew.
You? Are you doing a sound test?
Yeah. We're just gonna keep moving. So sorry for that. We'll figure out what's going on with that. So we're gonna go on. Yeah, that was a little bit of interesting news I saw, especially with the fact that Bad Boys 3 is still happening. Weird. So we're gonna go on to these to the comic book news, and thank you. I will say before we get into it that solicitations for March 2019 is out. So some of the news will be coming from there. Yes.
Okay. First up, a Switch-only Netflix for comics launched on December 17th. So it's the Nintendo Switch, and there's a program on it called Ink.
So apparently there's an app that'll they're calling it they're one of another one's calling themselves the Netflix of comics. And it's called Inky Pen, and you can use it on the Switch. I have not messed with this yet, and I probably won't. I mean, unless it's free. The app might be free, but I'm pretty sure the service is not. So there's says here thousands of indie comics and web comics, and eventually manga. I don't know if the Switch is granted it's a decent sized screen. In the wake of tablets and phones with
bigger screens, right?
Well, in some cases, I mean, obviously there are some phones that are not bigger because it's the Switch is a fairly sizable screen. So,
okay.
So if you can see, well, actually, hold on a second. Yep. As you can see from here.
Gotcha.
So you could do it. I don't know.
Right.
Right, and I don't know if it's going to be one of the situations where you could turn it on the side. I kind of doubt that, but we'll see because I don't recall the Switch has any rotational capabilities like that. But regardless, tablets are kind of prevalent, and they haven't done anything like this since the Vita. or the PSP, one of the two. But I guess it's a novel idea. Somebody will try it. If anybody from Inky Pen wants to maybe send us a code so we can try it and talk about it, then hey, get at us.
There you go.
Combo Chronicles. Hashtag Combo Chronicles on Twitter. Next up.
That's you.
Star Wars takes center stage in 2019 Free Comic Book Day plans. So apparently, yeah, Free Comic Book Day is coming up, but early and often we got to start the stuff off. So yeah, there is. Let's see. Derek Charm has created a one-of-a-kind Star Wars-inspired design for this year's Free Comic Book Day T-shirt. The T-shirt will be available for pre-order at comic book shops starting December 28th, and will be featured in the January issue of Diamond's Previews catalog. So, and I think you can see. There we go. Yeah, you can see the shirt, or the what's going to be on the shirt rather. But that's neat.
Okay. Yeah, you got to put the camera on that.
Oh yeah, I would surely choose to do that because I totally put it back on my stuff at the time. And
meanwhile,
here you go.
Well, at the Hall of Justice.
Yes.
Marvel's War of the Realms is beginning with Thor, the Avengers, and Blade. Yeah, so Blade is the not so secret addition to the Avengers team, taking Doctor Strange's rotating spot, and he's going to apparently play a big role in this War of the Realms story.
I'm not entirely sure how, but unless there's some vampires. Well, actually, he was rescued from vampires, which that's. Oh.
Listen, he's semi-magic based, so. Sure. Doesn't hurt to have that kind of character in play when it comes to Asgardian magic stuff.
Sure, I suppose. I loosely don't buy that, but yeah, sure, it works. That being said, not his first rodeo being around the.
Watch, that's going to be the big reveal because he's half vampire. That's why he's able to do something.
Sure, yeah. He'll know some things that they can in lieu of not having Doctor Strange around, which is I'm not sure why they wouldn't, but I guess.
Well, not know something, but actually be able to do something because he's fire, right?
Yeah, cut things up. Call Whistler. Get his daughter. Actually, whatever happened to the stuff with his daughter?
No idea.
Yeah. Anywho, regardless, that's the thing, and it's fastly coming. Next up, let's see. Boop. Marvel teases the arrival of the Dark Guardians of the Galaxy. So this is again coming from the solicits. So we have a new team of Guardians of the Galaxy, which include what's that? Cosmic Ghost Rider. Yeah, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Nebula, Star Fox, Gladiator, and Wraith.
Okay.
Star Fox. You would not think of being on a Dark any group. I'm just going to put that out there.
In the wake of what's happened to Thanos,
I guess. Yeah, and now that Thanos is going to be a threat once again.
Right, a different type of Thanos, right? Exactly.
Sure.
All right, next up, the Immortal Hulk is going to bring back a classic Marvel character in 2019. Spoiler alert, if you think carefully on the history of Bruce Banner, you can think about some of the characters that you haven't seen in a while, and it's you can pretty much winnow it down by process of elimination.
Next up,
this is some BS.
What? Really?
Yeah, this next story.
Marvel likes to apologize for X-Men Comics' destruction of Hindu temple. So the Hindu community is upset about the depicted destruction of a holy temple, of a temple. I'm not going to pronounce it because I want to butcher it. And the recent Uncanny X-Men. I know you've been reading this. So
right, get over yourselves, people. Yeah, this is some BS because it's not the only holy site that's destroyed because all of a sudden X-Men is, playing like he's God. So
Mhm.
yeah, get over yourselves, people.
I mean, come on. Hey, look, you as much as anybody know that people hold their religion quite close to them. So,
Sure.
and as this, in this article, you know, there are religious, there's been issues with Marvel and religious things in the past.
Yeah,
So
this is not one of them.
this is
This
I don't know.
It's not a real one. So
I don't know. It is real to the people who are fighting for this. Let's put it that way. So,
come talk
regardless.
to me about this. Come at me, bro.
So, and it says here that symbols of faith, large or small, should not be mishandled, which is true. He expressed concern over the misrepresentations and the misconceptions about, and this is a person named something said. I apologize for that. Rajan said.
He's gotten more publicity on this than for whatever.
Yeah. It is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to make light of his claims, nor am I going to say that this holds any weight either, because I don't know. Who I am not one to say. Moving along.
Captain America's future takes a page from Arrow's playbook. So this is something I was referring to earlier. That is playing out now in the pages of Captain America, where apparently he's going to get thrown in the slammer.
Yes, which is going on right now in Arrow. So, yay! I'm about to say not Cap's first time in the slammer. So, moving right along. Marvel Comics shows you the world outside your window. So, since its inception, the Marvel Universe has been creating stories to reflect outside your window. Now, some of the most powerful tales from Marvel's 80-year history is being collected into one larger-than-life volume. Collecting stories from 1963's Amazing Spider-Man to 2016's Champions. Each story showcases iconic Marvel characters tackling important and poignant real-life issues such as addiction, terrorism, HIV, school shootings, and more, alongside their extraordinary and high-flying ventures. And there's a list of comics where this collection is going. Well, it's going to be a list of stories included. Including Amazing Spider-Man 97, Howard the Duck number 8, which Iron Man 128, Champions, and it goes up to Champions like 24. So they're picking various stories throughout the years and putting them in this book. So, oh yeah, that's right. Champions 24 is with the school shooting one. I remember that one. I don't remember what the Miss Marvel one was. In fact, I don't remember what half of these were, but maybe the Alpha Flight one, I think I do remember, but regardless, that is a thing. So, and look for that in June. So next up.
Okay. Marvel's Exiles is ending with issue number 12. This is what I was referring to earlier. So it's been announced that Marvel Comics has canceled the Exiles book, and the current volume is going to end with next month's issue number 12. So it'll give me a chance to catch up on this book that I fell behind after the first few issues or so.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, it's kind of sad to see this one, see this go, because it's been a pretty good book. But I guess I mean, he's got. It's not like he settled out of the men's not going anywhere, because he's got other projects on him, which is great. But like I said, maybe the book will come back at some point.
Maybe and they got a nice solid trade in with 12 issues, so
definitely. So there is that. Which then there's been a lot of books lately. I was going to ask you in Dirt about David Nakayama's covers. I don't know if y'all have been paying attention to those or not.
Not that closely lately.
Because especially if you look at the one for 11, I dare say there may be some comparisons to a person, or at least there's a person of someone that you guys don't care so much about. At least I thought, but I don't know if that's the truth or not, or if it's, you know, this is all hand done. Regardless, moving right along because that's an outside view. So what?
I'm looking at the tablet that's being held up. Right?
What? No, I was thinking facially. I was thinking facially.
I'm sorry,
but you see it's more pronounced in other covers that I've noticed, at least for stuff that I've read. So I don't, Regardless, like I said, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Marvel's Spider-Man's PS4 heads to comics in new miniseries. So once again, the video game is coming back to the comics, but this time in a 6-issue miniseries set to release this March. Because you got to make that money. Written by Dennis Hopeless and illustrated by Michele Bandini. The upcoming comic series will retell the events of the game while expanding on previously unseen moments from the story. It will also provide behind-the-scenes content from the acclaimed video games production. So I guess if you the game, so what?
I was gonna say they needed to get this book out like a couple of months earlier.
I don't know. I mean,
to really kind of capitalize on the book, because Red Dead Redemption 2 is kind of overtaken Spidey in terms of popularity and just in terms of how much we talk about it online. So
maybe, I mean, I don't know. Like at the time we're recording, people are pretty much doing and or going through their video game year-end stuff, and I feel like Spider-Man. I mean, you are right that Red Dead being the newer of the two, coming out, more recent than Spidey did, is definitely getting talked up. But I'm thinking there's going to be people talking about this for end of the year stuff, and probably until then. So I think it still worked out. I mean, they probably got out as soon as they could, So it's weird that Hopeless is writing it, and not the people who. But then again, I guess it kind of makes some kind of sense. I don't know.
It's got to stay in house.
I guess, but I mean, it's not the first time they've gone. I mean, like I said, I think want to say that one of the writers of the game story has written for comics.
Okay,
I believe, but I would have to go check on that. Regardless, it is what it is, and it's coming. So if you haven't finished the game by then, if you're able to play it, then hey, here's your chance to read it. Excuse me. A little update on the Avengers Project video game. So, hey, guess what, folks? We're still out there. That's the gist of it. So Crystal Dynamics has moved into a new studio a couple of years ago, and and I believe this is when this started. We started getting wind of this. I'm trying to remember. This was last year, but regardless, they went out, came out in space and said, "Hey, we're still working on this," because people are still asking about it and they still have ideas about it. I hope it works out. So, and they've been doing 2 Raider games for the last couple of years, so it's not like they've been sitting on their behinds. So they've been pumping out those 2 Raider games, which I hear are pretty good, but I haven't been reading them. I mean, I haven't been playing them.
Alrighty. Next up, Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures toy line is going to come with its own mini comics. So Hasbro is making a line of action figures for Disney's new Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures series of animated shorts. So these are kid friendly, and now they're producing mini comics to go along with them.
Yeah, because sometimes the 80s come back.
Well, I like these little shorts. It's streamlined,
Totally. Oh, have you watched any of them? You've watched some of them?
Here and there.
Yeah, I need to do that because I'm hearing decent things about it. But then again, this is also from Star Wars fans. Slightly biased. Synergy, Hasbro Creators Showcase celebrates Women's History Month. So, which is this coming March, I believe. Anyway, in recognition of Women's History Month, IDW Publishing and Hasbro Inc. has teamed up to create Synergy. And I'm assuming it has something to do with Gem and the Holograms or not.
Or not.
But that would be great. Hasbro Creators Showcase, a 48-page celebration anthology of fan favorite creators and new talent working on many beloved Hasbro characters. So expect some bronies to be hyped up for this. And I'm sure, as you know, well, actually, it says here. So there is going to be autobiographical works written by Marguerite Scott, with Sarah Petrie DeRocher reuniting the creative team behind Till All Are One, the Transformers series, Katie Cook of My Little Ponies, and there's going to be some tales from G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Gem and the Holograms. Because it's all synergy.
Mm-hmm.
All synergy. And if you don't understand that reference, then I don't know what you do with your lives. Anyway, that's the game of a certain people of a certain vintage will or have seen the when they put it on Netflix will know the deal.
Alrighty. IDW is going to relaunch Transformers comics in 2019. We're talking about, starting from scratch. From what this article and what I've read is that they're actually going to go pre Cybertron War.
Right, because they have done a lot with those books up until they ended them, and it's a whole lot there. Like they started off with like a couple of books, and they ended up being like 4 or 5, or 6 actually, and a bunch of minis here and there in the last few years. So I guess they're, kind of cleaning the house and bringing it back. So it's going to be shipped twice monthly and not written by the same people who wrote I think it was John Barber, but then he's got a new position, so he probably is not going to be doing much writing. Actually, I think he is going to, because I don't remember him saying something about it. Regardless, Brian Ruckley and illustrated by Angel Hernandez and Ron Joseph, or is going to be the creative team for this book. And you can see some art from it if you're watching the video.
Okay. Alrighty, next up.
DC pulls Heroes in Crisis #7 cover at Tom King's request. So apparently, excuse me, the cover for Heroes in Crisis #7 leaked online. And wait, here it is. Here is the cover if you're watching the video, which shows a dead Poison Ivy, who apparently was attempting to etch out a message or something, which is a familiar looking symbol. And apparently Tom King saw that and had some issues with it, and they're deciding to scrap that cover for something else. He says an unfinished cover for Heroes in Crisis 7 was leaked prior to going through the standard DC approval process, says King. I did not like the cover. I discussed the situation with the editorial, who agreed with my objections. This cover will not be used. Thank you.
Okay.
That's what Tom King said. And he also went on to say that, hey, in case there was any doubt, my friend and comic book brother Clayman, who did the cover, who was also, I believe, writing, who was also doing the art on the book, continues to set the bar in comics with his work on HIC. Proud and honored to be working with him. He's one of the greats coming up in Heroes in Crisis, and there's a couple of bits of art by Clayman from an upcoming issue. So basically, he's trying to say that, hey, there's no bad blood between him and Clayman because of the objections to the cover.
Okay. Alrighty, and last but not least, Eric Esquivel has been pulled as the new Nightwing co-writer. If you didn't know about it, it's because they hadn't announced it yet. They were going to announce it in the March solicits that came out this week.
Which is, I believe it's still, as this thing says, it is still in the solicits. However, this was pulled. I mean, the solicits came out before the allegations and everything, so it's still going to be in the previews and the solicits. But yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yep. Based on some allegations of sexual misconduct,
Mm-hmm.
that
Which we talked about last week,
right? That caused Border Town to be canceled. So that a book that he's working on for the Vertigo imprint.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, boo on you, dude.
I mean, hey, you did the crime.
So right, I was about to say at least allegedly. We're still not.
Right.
We're not post.
Right. We don't necessarily know, but that's why I said, yeah.
We are post. We're not yet post court case. So, on that note, that is the end of our news for this week, and I'm gonna do an ad read, and then I guess we will send everyone off on their Christmas holiday. Our last ad read of the night for Wink, because we could all use some alcohol going into the holidays. Wink is your personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. Doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink Wines through CSPN. Do it today.
And as we come to the end of another episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles, I would like to thank everyone for coming out. Thank you for being here. Thanks, Dirk, for showing up and being a part of the proceedings. As for next week, I guess we'll keep you posted,
right?
Because there will be books next week. I think we know that by now, but whether it'll be the day after Christmas, so we don't know what everybody's plans will be.
Well, I mean, if you look at the calendar next week, our regular show really doesn't interfere with the holiday.
Pretty much.
But what PCN_Dirt was referring to is the shipping schedule. And what normally happens is, because Christmas this year happens to fall on a Tuesday, Tuesdays is when most stores get their books. So everything's kind of shifted, one day later because of the holiday. And I think that's what he was referring to. So we'll see what is actually going to be in our hands next week.
Right. So, yeah, that being that, if we have something to talk about, we will more likely have a show.
You got it.
And we will keep you posted. Just keep stay tuned to social media and to Twitter, and we'll definitely let you know.
Okay.
That being said, Agent_70 from Instagram and Twitter. PCN_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, INeedComics.com. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, DCliq Nation, that's DKLIQNATION on Twitter, CB Kwan on Twitter, DCliqNation.com, and of course, Comic Book Resources. And also, the Tim Dog School of Extraordinary. That's his new school where he's training the next Professor X. And myself, Roddy Cat, at Roddy Cat on Twitter, News Nerds Need on Twitter, CB Caps on Instagram, News Nerds Need Reddit. Their site, who knows? You can find this here program on the podcast cruisers of choice, that being Spotify, that being Google Play, that being Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes. CSPN.us is where we find this podcast and other fine podcasts. Go there, check out those. Those are great shows. And also, while you're there, go to shop.cspn.us so you can get some merch from this podcast and other podcasts if you like. And with that, we will more than likely possibly see you next week. But if we don't, regardless, have a wonderful holiday.
Yes, Merry Christmas. Make sure you watch Die Hard, the action Christmas movie.
Or Gremlins, or I don't know. There's been a couple of there's been a couple of other ones that's come in the running as of recently that I've been talking about.
We'll get together, have a few laughs.
But yes, I would also co-sign Die Hard. I feel like somebody said there was one on Twitter. Someone said, I can't remember what it was. I'm like, yeah, it is Christmas based, but Iron Man 3. No. It is set around Christmas time, but that's a shame black things because he always have,
Right.
But regardless, I endorse the Die Hard. I do not endorse Iron Man 3 for a movie at all, much less, for a Christmas movie. So that being said, go get some eggnog or some hot cider or whatever and enjoy some Die Hard and some other great movies or whatever. Go see Aquaman and Into the Spider-Verse. That's kind of Christmas based. So with that, folks, this is the Comic Book Chronicles, and we will see you later.
Peace. One.
Good evening, Rick.
Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really Iron Man, Mr. Stark?